Being in a position of power can be quite intoxicating. A good number of police officers got drunk in this power and end up doing horrible things. From abusing their power to breaking the very laws they swore to uphold, these individuals found themselves on the receiving end of swift justice. For people who have seen the ugly side of the law, it is very fulfilling when karma slaps back and gets you the vengeance you deserve. Let's look at some of these cases. On September 6, 2022, Ja'Lana Dunlap Banks pulled into a property by the roadside. Shortly after, she was approached by police officers from the Fayetteville Police Department. She complied with the officers and gave them her ID. Officer Haddock started harassing Dunlap, talking about fugitives despite her cooperation.
Ma'am, please stop. Please stop. Okay, but let go of me. Let go of me.
Dunlap knew her rights, but she found herself being dragged out of her car. She screamed that the officers were hurting her, but they ignored her and proceeded to handcuff her. Dunlap, who suffers from sickle cell anemia, started hyperventilating and even vomited on herself. All this while, she was screaming that she hadn't done anything wrong and that her boss was the owner of the property she was being accused of trespassing.
What have I done wrong? Because I know I did wrong. Y'all come over here with me. I know what property this is. My boss just bought this property at the beginning of the year. Okay. What are you talking about?
Several police officers joined the arrest, but Dunlap was continuously pointing out the unjust way she had been handled and couldn't understand why, being 105 pounds, she was being accosted by 5 police officers. Bodycam footage of this horrible ordeal surfaced, and Dunlap sued the Fayetteville Police Department for $75,000 for the blatant violation of her rights protected by the First, Fourth, and 14th Amendments. Imagine having your fate dictated by a coin toss. Yes, these 2 police officers' actions left the community shocked. In April 2018, Sarah Webb found herself a victim of police corruption in ways she never believed possible. She was speeding to work when she got pulled over by police officers Courtney Brown and Christy Wilson. Sarah knew that she was speeding, so she cooperated with the officers and explained that she was late for work. Sadly, her desperate pleas fell on deaf ears as the officers started scolding her. Brown went to the car and told Wilson everything that was happening. However, she mentioned that she did not have enough evidence to make an arrest. The 2 police officers then came up with a solution, a coin toss. Brown opened her laptop and the 2 officers could be heard giggling over the dashcam as they heard the sound of the digital coin toss. Then they spoke in code.
This is tail, right? Yeah, so really, 23. Michael Jordan? Hi.
And came up with bogus charges against Sarah. Sarah was expecting a ticket, so she was horrified when the police officers arrested her. She could not believe it, and she cried all the way to the station, her fate having been determined by a coin toss. 2 months later, bodycam footage of the arrest was released, and the 2 police officers were terminated from the police force. In this other case, this officer recorded himself doing something wrong. Talk about being caught with your hand in the cookie jar. Police Chief Buddy Peaster had been suspecting that Middle Tennessee State University police officer Marco Burke had been stealing from the evidence lockers. This is after an AR-15 went missing from an MTSU police locker. Determined to get his answers, Buddy employed the help of Murfreesboro's police to do a sting. Burke was called to investigate a collision case. Burke can be seen walking to the deserted car, looking around, and then going back to his car. He reports that the vehicle is deserted, leaving out what he has found in the car.
Just the vehicle is unoccupied. That's it.
He is very shocked when he gets arrested just before the end of his shift, and he realizes that he had been caught. Apparently, Buddy had placed $1,100 and some pills in the car. Burke's own dashcam showed him taking the pills, and some rustle noise could be heard, maybe him counting the money he took. In such a case, you cannot lie your way out of your own evidence. Burke pled guilty to 3 felony charges and had to explain to his wife why he wasn't coming home. If you know you're doing something illegal, why would you let your camera document you? Turn it off. In this next case, police brutality takes on a different form, revealing sadistic monsters who do whatever they want simply because they have the uniform.
I think it's pretty well, I think it's a justifiable bite.
On July 4th, 2023, commercial truck driver Jadarius Rose was stopped by traffic patrol because his truck was missing a mud flap. Rose stopped, but when he saw a gun aimed at him, he drove off. He then called 911 since he feared that something very life-threatening could happen. This led to a small chase before Rose finally stopped, the 911 dispatcher convincing him that the police wouldn't harm him. He exited his truck and surrendered to the police officers. Little did he know that he was about to have one of the most traumatic experiences of his young 23 years. Police officer Ryan Speakman shouted at Rose to surrender or he would release the canine on him. Rose complied, but Speakman released the dog nonetheless.
Do not let them, don't release the dog. Do not release the dog with his hands up.
Police canine, you're gonna get bit. Police canine, you're gonna get bit. Final chance, you're gonna get bit. Sir, here, stop.
Bodycam footage shows the dog running toward the truck, having determined that Rose wasn't a threat. However, Speakman directed the dog to Rose, and it rushed and sunk its teeth in Rose's arm.
On the ground! On the ground! On the ground! Get it up!
The poor lad cried out in pain, and even after the dog was freed, Rose was deeply horrified and experiencing trauma. He had to be taken to the hospital. The other officers on scene were not amused by his stunt, since Rose had surrendered. Following this, Speakman was fired from the Circleville Police Department. However, police brutality takes on a different form in these next cases that result in physical and verbal assault. On June 13th at Warren Police Station, CCTV footage captured a horrifying moment. Police officer Matthew Rodriguez was working as a jail officer waiting to book a 19-year-old who had been arrested. It seemed like the two exchanged a few words and then Rodriguez rose up from his seat. What happened next left everyone in shock as it was an act of sheer terror. Rodriguez grabs the teenager and slams his head into the wall and then proceeds to beat the daylight out of him. Several police officers rushed to the teen's rescue, but Rodriguez continued his assault and then threw the teenager into the prison cell, head first into the concrete. The teenager had to be rushed to the hospital for trauma treatment. He didn't press charges on Rodriguez, but the other officers who had witnessed the assault quickly pressed charges. Rodriguez was suspended without pay and eventually fired.
No one's above the law, including Mr. Rodriguez, who took an oath of office, and as such, he will be prosecuted just as anyone else would be prosecuted, but it gives a black eye to all law enforcement, and it gives a black eye to the ones that try to do their best every day.
He was charged with deprivation of rights under color of law and falsification of records, facing up to 20 years in prison. If you think that is the end of the brutality, hold on to your seats. This next case will leave a bad taste in your mouth, and the question, in whose hands are we safe, in your mind. In September 2017, Columbus police officers apprehended Timothy Davis at a convenience store. Several arrest warrants had been issued against him, so the officers had the right to apprehend him. However, Timothy refused to comply, causing the police officers to attack him.
Put your hands behind your back. I'm not doing no shit. You ain't complying.
6 police officers rained on Timothy, beating him black and blue until his pants fell off. The beating was so severe that paramedics had to administer first aid to the poor man. However, that was not the only horrible thing that happened that night. Video footage of the incident recorded by a bystander went viral, but police officer Joseph Bogard's comments were what caused an outcry. He was heard saying that he would have told David, "I'm going to for real armbar you. And then when that still doesn't work, I'm going to choke the life out of you. Then while you're drooling on yourself, I'll handcuff you." These words made the community fight against the police department, as it showed that police officers could use force whenever they wanted. Joseph laughing when Davis was gasping for air did not help his case.
not trying to pull. Okay, great.
Oh, stop it.
Davis sued the police officers and received a $225,000 settlement. He sustained kidney failure after having been tased 11 times, and for a continuous duration of 55 seconds, while the legal time is 25 seconds. Bogard was relieved of duty while further investigation continued. What's your opinion? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and remember to subscribe for more gripping stories. See you in the next video.